Well, welcome to the latest in our series of St Lawrence Faith Talks. And today I'm joined by the Revd Didier Jaquet, who's a self-supporting minister in the Winslow benefice. And we're going to be talking about self-supporting ministry. People who aren't paid full-time by the church yet still exercise a distinct priestly and diaconal ministry. But before we get into that, tell me a little bit about your background, Didier.
So I trained as a lawyer and worked as a lawyer for quite a few years. But relatively early in my career, I wanted to test my vocation. So I went to become a pastoral assistant at St Matthew's, which is a church in Westminster. I decided that I wanted to follow God's call, and so I went to selection conference and trained with the Eastern Region Ministry course, which was a part-time course. So throughout my training and then subsequently during my curacy and when I was ordained deacon and priest, I've always been working full-time on top of that.
Always as a lawyer?
Always as a lawyer until 2015, and then in 2015 I joined my wife's family business, which is a store that sells all things for the horse and rider. And I'm helping her develop that business as well. So always full-time working and having ministry alongside.
But you're not a horse rider, are you?
I'm afraid not, but my wife is very keen, and I'm more of the back office kind of work, so it's less important for me.
More of a back office person. We might come back to that
That's
in
a phrase
a minute.
That's going to haunt me.
It might haunt you, you never know. But obviously you have this full-time job and you've had some, really interesting jobs outside the church. Do you find it easy to integrate your calling alongside your work outside the church, or are they kind of two distinct things?
I think for me it is quite distinct. I think there are the beauty of self-supporting ministry is that it's very varied, and some people bring their ministry right directly into the workplace. They're chaplains, or they are bringing it in a different way. Others make it more distinct, especially where I've always been much more about being parish-based. And so for me it is quite distinctive, and that brings challenges and opportunities in both. I don't sort of force it down people's throats when I'm at work, but people are aware of what I do and the ministry that I offer.
Do you ever have a dog collar at work?
Don't tend to, but as I say, I'm always very open about what I do, and so sometimes there are chats, sometimes there are other things that people might raise with me, and there is a sort of very gentle form of ministry that might take place there.
Over the oats and the horse feed and the saddlery?
Well, possibly. I'm thinking more sort of certainly in the past that there have been opportunities.
Sure. So, how much time are you able to give to the parish ministry? And I think it's parish ministry, it's really clear, is something you feel passionately about. And have chosen that you are still wanting to exercise parish ministry even as a self-supporting minister when you could have exercised it in other places. But how much time do you bring to the parish or the benefice?
Well, one of the things you have to do as a self-supporting minister when you join a parish is to be clear about the level of commitment that you're able to offer. And I offer 10 hours per week. There are other self-supporting ministers that offer much more. There aren't that many that offer much less, but 10 hours is what I offer. Sometimes it's much more than that at the high days. There can be some, Easter week, for example, can be a very, very full-on week. And there are other times when it will be a bit less, especially when I take some time off, or it's not quite such a busy schedule. And the problem with working full-time particularly is that the balance can sometimes get out of kilter. And you just need to be aware of that and able to talk to your colleagues about that and be clear about what, if it is actually quite a stressful time and whether you need to row back a bit, or equally, can you take up some of the burden on for the others?
Certainly, I think we have the impression that it's not just a 10-hour commitment to us. It feels to us like you're fully integrated into the ministry team and our ways of doing things. Does it feel like that to you, or does it feel a back office ministry, to give it a word you've used in relation to your other employment?
No, because we don't sit there and say, right, well, you've done your 8 hours and you've only got 2 hours left. It's about saying, well, actually, what can you offer and what ministry is it that you're able to pursue in the church? So, for example, I very much call I feel called to lead services and have an active role in preaching, and so I'm able to offer that. And you encourage me to do that. Yeah, I'm presiding. Equally, I've got other forms of ministry. So, for example, the book group or the reflective service that we have once a month, or morning prayer. These are opportunities that I've been interested in. I've come to you and said, well, can we do something with that? And together with Mark, the curate, I've been able to pursue that, and so it's been really encouraging. And none of us are sitting there clock watching and saying, well, okay, well, I've done my 10 hours, that's it now.
So you run a book club. You've introduced a different form of service, a kind of reflective, more contemplative Eucharist, and you lead a Zoom morning prayer once a week and go twice a week.
Yeah.
So congregational development and what in this diocese we like to call catechesis is something that you're able.
I call it being a priest.
You call it being. I love that. I love the fact you just call it being a priest.
I'm not one for all highfalutin terms. I just think it's an aspect of fulfilling my call. Which is about prayer. It's about worship, and it's about encouraging people in their faith.
Brilliant. And you're able to integrate all of that, and it doesn't feel, in a sense, like you're filling a rota. Doing things that other people,
So both here and in Tring, where I was before, I think the working relationship that I have with you and the incumbent and also the curate and other clergy colleagues are really important to make sure that actually you feel a part of the team and are able to contribute, and you're not just somebody that's filling in. So
is it a joyful thing to be a self-supporting minister?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad I pursued it. I do it for my own particular family circumstances, but it's something that I think it's got a lot of freedom to pursue things that of interest you and that might fulfil more of my sort of own calling. And there are burdens with it and challenges with it, but I think the most important thing is to explore the freedom that you have that comes with it.
So what would you say are the potential burdens, potential frustrations that people should at least be aware of so they know how to recognise and potentially navigate and be just upfront about?
The church hierarchy is much, much better than it was, but sometimes you find that they don't really know what to do with you.
Right.
And you're a bit of an unknown quantity. But as I say, it's much, much better, and people, and certainly they're much more encouraging and aware of the ministry and the demands of the other parts of your life.
Right.
But there has been a frustration in part when people put in a distinction that whenever I'm talking to worshippers or to meeting to people on the street that they never do. As I say, I think in terms of the joy, I think it would be that freedom. That freedom to fulfil your calling, because we each have a calling and there are particular interests that are relevant to each of us, and I'm able to pursue those.
Brilliant. And it's been really fantastic having you here, and
thank you.
And seeing you bring things that we might not otherwise have had, because we were just on the treadmill of doing what we do because we do what we do because what we do. And I know people have loved the morning prayer and the book group and the growing reflective service just as something slightly different that you've been distinctly able to bring. So that's been a real treat and a joy for me, actually, to observe that and to actually learn more about ministry by working with other ministers.
Well, thank you. I think, I'm grateful to be given the opportunity to do so. I just rocked up out of nowhere and said, we met a couple of times, and I said who I am. You got to know me a little bit, but it wasn't until we started working together that we've appreciated what we can both bring, and I've been really grateful for that sort of freedom to be able to pursue my ministry.
Brilliant. And it's such a gift to be able to offer that self-supporting ministry. Never call it non-stipendiary, it's always self-supporting, I've discussed. I got told off when I called it non-stipendiary, and rightly so. But it's wonderful to have spoken to you this morning. Is there anything you want to ask me before we crack on?
I think finally it's whether or not you're going to share that chocolate orange or whether you're going to keep that all for yourself.
It's mine. No, we'll open it afterwards, I promise you.
Great.
Didier, thanks very much for being with us this morning.
Thanks for inviting me.